welcome back to my channel. It's this time of the year again. We are all looking forward to Christmas, and what could be better than an advent calendar? I love hanging an advent calendar in my apartment on the one side in order to look forward to Christmas. On the other side, it's a very nice piece of decoration. If you have any friends and family who you'd like to give a present to, an advent calendar is a great idea to show how much you care about them. Today I'm going to show you how you can make your own advent calendar without spending any money on buying supplies. All the 3 advent calendars that I'm going to show you in a bit have been made with supplies that I had lying around at home anyway. And if you don't have exactly the same supplies, don't worry. Most of the things can be replaced easily with other supplies. For instance, instead of felt, you can use fabric. Instead of these little plastic eyes, you can use a Sharpie. If you don't have the same color, you use a different color. It's completely up to you. I'm just posting this video to give you some ideas and show you there's no reason not to make an advent calendar at this time of the year. The first advent calendar I'm going to show you is very easy to make. I think it's the easiest of the 3. Let's get started with advent calendar number 1. I call it the Christmas elf calendar. Isn't it just so cute? I'm going to show you the supplies first. The main thing you need is a toilet paper roll. Depending on how tall you'd like these little elves to be, you can either use 24 of the regular sized ones, or you can cut them in half and you'd only need 12. That completely depends on how big you'd like the individual packages to be. I use 24 and cut them a bit smaller. You'd be safe to just have 24 toilet paper rolls. The next thing you need is felt. I got a lot of felt over the years that I don't really use. I chose colors that looked very Christmassy to me. If you don't have felt, don't worry, no need to buy it, just get fabric instead. Anything will do. The next thing I used for all of my projects is a hot glue gun. I recommend getting a small one so it doesn't take a lot of space and you can still see the little stars that are stuck to the hot glue gun from my projects. In addition, depending on what you have available, I used these buttons. So these are just a few leftover buttons that I mixed together. They can be very useful for all sorts of craft projects. I also used these and pom-poms. The little pom-poms I've used for the hat. And in addition, leftover little plastic eyes. If you don't have them, just use a Sharpie instead. It really doesn't matter. You can decorate your little Christmas elves however you want, and they will just look lovely, I promise. Now let's see how I put this together. As I said earlier, I decided to cut my toilet paper roll a bit shorter. I used 3/4 of the original length. Then go on and cut out a little piece of felt. That will be the coat of the little elf, and give it a little base so that the things you will put inside won't fall out. Secure all these pieces of felt with your hot glue gun. I realized I had this cute star band, which I used on top of the coat to make it look a bit more Christmassy. Next, I added on the plastic eyes. As I said earlier, if you don't have them, just draw on the eyes with a Sharpie instead. And I repeated the whole process for the little red elf, using a few different inspirations with leftover DIY supplies. Here you can see me using little leftover buttons to make the coat stand out a bit more. And of course the plastic eyes. Don't they look adorable already? The other little elf requested buttons as well. And then onto the hat. Again, I used a hot glue gun to stick the hat together. Then I made use of my star band to make the hat look a bit fancier. Here we are, the first elf is ready to go. And I repeated the whole process again with the other hat. Since I'm an avid pom-pom fan, I added 2 little pom-poms on the top, and I used a variation of the star band so that both hats look a bit different. The hot glue gun makes it very easy to stick different design ideas onto the hat and the coat, and with a total of 24 little elves, there's a lot of potential to get creative, no excuses. Here are the first 4 elves ready to be packed with cute things. There are only 20 more elves to go. I used my little star punch on adhesive golden paper in order to make a couple of little stars on which I wrote the individual numbers to distinguish which elf comes first. Then I decided to fill the elves with little creative nuts that I made previously, and as you can see, they are a perfect fit for the toilet paper roll. This is just an example. I had made these nuts a while back and I thought it would be a very cute present. You can also fill the elves with little sweets or any little toys that you might come across. I might make a separate video on how I made the little nuts if you're interested. They are very nice present and they take about 2 to 3 hours to make, so a very reasonable amount of time. Ta-da! All 4 elves are ready with their presents inside. I will make 24 of those, but I didn't want the video to be too long, so I'm only showing you the first 4. If you decide to give them away as a present, I'm sure that the recipient will love them. Aren't these Christmas elves just so cute, and you can fill them with anything you like. Sweets or little toys. If what you're putting inside is rather small, you can cut the toilet paper rolls in half or just use 3/4 as I did. You can put it anywhere easily, on a little table, on a coffee table, and just open one by one, or if you give it to someone, it's such a cute little present. If you don't have the space for 24 little Christmas elves, don't worry. I can understand that 24 paper rolls do take a lot of space. In that case, I have a different option for you, which is option number 2. Option number 2 is made out of little envelopes. As in the previous project, I made it all by myself using utensils that I already had at home. The number 1 thing you will need is leftover wrapping paper. I have some leftover wrapping paper from last year that I used to make the envelopes, as I'm going to show you in a bit. Secondly, obviously the hot glue gun, as well as some kind of string or yarn that you can use to tie the envelopes together. Also, if you have a little star punch, that can be very handy. I had one in this size. If you have one in a different size or a different shape, anything will do. I used those in order to make the little stickers to close the envelope from the back. Another thing I found very handy was this laminator. If you do have that at home, you can use it to make all sorts of little craft projects. I always use it and I love it a lot, so I used it for 2 of these projects as well. They come very cheaply on Amazon for like 20 bucks. Without further ado, let's get started. For the envelopes, I decided to come up with a Christmas theme and design little figures to put into the envelopes. Here you can see me drawing a little sheep, or better, I'm trying to draw a little sheep. It's not as easy as it seems. And then I cut it out and put them all together on the table. We have 24 of those, so I had to come up with 24 little designs, and maybe you have already guessed what Christmas theme I selected. Now comes the tedious part. You have to use your scissors and cut them all very precisely, otherwise they don't look as pretty as they could. It's worth the effort. Here they are, all ready and cut. Now put them on a side, get the plastic foil ready, and put them one by one inside in order to be laminated. Again, you don't have to laminate them, but I strongly encourage you to do so if you do have a laminator at home anyway, and not to be lazy, because once they're in that plastic foil, they look much nicer, and also if you give them away as a present, people can cherish them much longer. It means putting in a little bit more extra work, but trust me, it's worth the effort. Once your little figures are ready and laminated, it means you have to cut them out again. Yes, unfortunately, all over again. And be careful to cut them as precisely as possible so they look nice. Don't worry, I won't make you watch me cut all of those. Let's get right to the part when they are all cut and ready to go. Now use your leftover Christmas wrapping paper and trace out the envelope. I realized that I had 2 different sizes of little figures, so I ended up making a small envelope and a big envelope, depending on the size of the figures I wanted to put inside. I used a total of 3 different colors of wrapping paper. I thought it made for a nice mix. I had all even numbers in one color, all uneven numbers in another color, and for the 24th, the last envelope to open, I had a completely different color to make it stand out a bit more. As you can see, the envelope is slowly coming together. I used some glue to stick the ends together. I realized that if you don't have any leftover wrapping paper, you can also choose standard plain paper and use star and tree stickers to decorate it. And finally, I made 2 numbers. This is envelope number 24, hence the fancy wrapping paper, and I glued them on top using my hot glue gun. Alternatively, you can use a Sharpie or any other nice pen to write the numbers on top of the envelopes. There's no need to be concerned if you don't have exactly the same leftover supplies. Here you can see me getting another envelope ready, envelope number 12. Once again, I cut the numbers by myself. Just make sure that they are all of the same size. It all depends on how much effort you want to put into this. I used a ruler to make sure that they are all more or less the same size, and then used the hot glue gun to stick them onto the envelope. Now repeat this process for all 24 different envelopes. It sounds much more time consuming than it actually is. It was a lot of fun for me to make all of those, and you should end up with something similar to these. Trust me, you will feel like Santa making that many envelopes. Having prepped all the envelopes, the next step is to fill them with the little figures and to use a star punch to get all the little star stickers ready to glue the envelope from behind. Now let me show you how one of these envelopes comes together. Let's start with number 2. I chose this little ox to put into envelope number 2. Then I used a star sticker to close the envelope from behind. Repeat the whole thing for envelope number 3. I put in a little sheep and close the envelope with a star sticker from behind. And keep going like this until all 24 of those envelopes have the little figures inside. Next, I used this leftover rope, and by coincidence, I still had some leftover Christmas pins that I used to secure the envelopes onto the rope. I recommend having them a bit spaced out so it doesn't look too messy. At the beginning, I put them too close together and it didn't look as nice, I think. But at the end of the day, it depends on how much space you have on the wall. Try to find a good length for your longest rope first, then divide the rope by 24, and you have your dimensions for each individual Christmas pin. Be extra careful if you're planning to put this calendar into a box to give it away as a gift, because the individual strands can get tangled quite easily and it can be a pain to get them apart again. Again, I will spare you from having to watch me put the envelopes on there one by one and show you the end result right away. It's by far the cheapest advent calendar to make, and you can put it together using supplies that you have at home anyway. Isn't that advent calendar just so cute? And what I like the most about it is that you can just hang it on the wall. So if you live in a small apartment, this is a very good option and it makes the whole room look very Christmassy right away. Let's go on to my third and last advent calendar that I'm going to share with you. The third advent calendar is very easily made. You can use your imagination to make whatever design you'd like. In my case, I went for a Christmas train, so I'm calling it the Christmas Train Advent Calendar. Isn't it just lovely? And in order to show you different options, I made this calendar very small. This option is much more suitable if you just want some Christmas decoration in your apartment. So I won't be putting any sweets into the individual pouches because they are so tiny. But if you wanted, you could make the train much bigger and put some sweets into the individual boxes. Again, I used my leftover felt, I used some Christmassy colors. I also had some leftover fabric that has these little stars on it, so I used that as the background, as you will see in a bit. And besides that, I used the laminator in order to come up with some little figures that I designed myself that I glued in from the back. Again, none of that is a must-have. You can use any sort of fabric or felt to make the little train, and then just use the hot glue gun in order to stick everything together, as I'm going to show you now. This project begins similar to the previous one by drawing out little Christmas figures. I designed a deer, a snowman, gingerbread, Santa Claus, and a bunch of presents and other decorative items. Come up with your own Christmas figures to make your advent calendar a creative and unique piece of art. You can also find a bunch of inspirations on the internet if you're not into drawing yourself, or you can just make a train without any Christmas figures at all if you don't want to put in that much effort. It will look cute either way, so don't worry too much. The next step is to put all these little figures into the plastic foil and put them into the laminator. It does take a while to come out from the other end, so be patient. Maybe count from 5 to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done! And then the tedious part begins again of having to cut out the individual figures from the plastic. And once you're done with that, the next step is to cut out the train out of felt. This green piece is one wagon, and there will be 4 of these wagons since we have 6 little doors on each wagon and we have the 24 dates to put on. As you can see, I went for Christmas colors such as green, gray, red, and white. You can choose whatever colors you like best. This combination worked out well for me. After having cut out all the squares and making sure that they fit onto the 4 wagons, it is now time to add on the individual dates using a Sharpie. I did try to do it with different pens and colors, but on felt, this black Sharpie really is the only option for it to be seen. Next, use the hot glue gun to fix all the individual parts onto the wagon. Since this advent calendar is very tiny, I didn't bother being able to put something into the individual pouches. But if you want to make it a bit bigger, you can put glue on the 3 sides and then you can put some sweets inside from the top. Add on the wheels, for which I found these little black buttons. And finally, the front part of the train, which mainly serves as a decorative purpose. Add on the window and the individual pieces to make it look a bit fancier. As I said, I just used what I had lying around and didn't think too much about it, so do whatever you think is best. Make sure to cut off any excess parts. Then add on the wheels, the little buttons so it looks a bit more authentic. And there we are. Note how my little Christmas figures have a big white box right underneath them. That's so they can be glued into the individual wagons and you don't have to fear that they fall apart. Repeat the same process for all 4 individual wagons until you have all 4 figures tightly glued in there. It's coming together, isn't it? Now the last thing you will need is a base to stick them on. I decided to go with grey felt that is just a bit larger than the train, and in order for it not to look too messy from the other side, I decided to put on another piece of felt. That only leaves for the individual pieces to be glued together. Take the train, stick all the wagons together, then turn it around and glue the train onto the background. Here we are, and the third calendar is ready to be put on the wall. Make sure you have secured everything quite well. Also try to consider how to hang it onto the wall. I decided to put in a string from the back. And here is a final showcase of what the calendar looks like in the end. This is the end of the video. I hope you liked watching how to make these 3 different advent calendars, and if you have the time, I'd love to see how these turned out in your own apartment. Do let me know in the comment section below which one you like the most, and if you've made any of those, make sure to share a picture of what they ended up looking like. If you haven't already, this is a perfect opportunity to follow my channel and let me know if you would like to see any more DIY related videos to make your apartment more festive and Christmassy looking. Thanks for watching, see you next time, bye!